Hi there, I'm a sort of Australian politics and welcome back to the channel. Today, in the last few weeks or so, there's been a lot of discourse around comments made by Senator Jacinta Nampijimpa Price, mainly in regards to Indian immigration and her failure to get in line with Susan Lay's leadership of the Liberal Party. That got me thinking, and it was something that I'd been thinking about prior to the election. This was before I had the channel, so I did make a video of it. What would happen if she was the leader of the Liberal Party? Now, this is just going to be in reference to last election. What if she was the leader last election? Because I highly doubt that, given her comments, she'd be made leader after now. So, yeah. Just going off what would have happened at the last election. Starting off in Sydney, I think Sydney would probably be fairly similar. I think Jacinta is more charismatic than Peter Dutton, but they're fairly similar policy-wise, so I don't really know. But I still have Labor going safe in all of these seats. Maybe a seat like Barton or something might not be safe, but it'll probably be hanging around 10, as opposed to I think the 16 or so. I think 16. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a very big margin. I don't know if seats like Parramatta, I don't know if marginal would be it, but probably Parramatta, probably about 5%. McMahon probably starts dropping down to about what it was at the federal election, maybe like 1% lower or something. Werriwa, I think could get a little bit marginal, but then probably still safe around Chifley and Greenway. Bennelong, I feel like probably would be about 4 or 5 for Labor, but still very much a win for them. And then seats like Mitchell might go slightly under 10 to about 8 or so, but nowhere near to like the 4 that I got down to. I think Lindsay would probably still be fairly marginal. Barara might get marginal, or to like 5% maybe, but still very much a Liberal seat. Macquarie, I feel like could hurt a little bit. I feel like her real appeal would be in, not so much outer suburbs, but the real, outer areas that Labor holds. So probably seats like Macquarie, I think going into Jacinta's home territory of the Northern Territory, would probably see fair margin in seats like Lingiari, and maybe even in the Hunter. Hume would still be safe, and then Cook would still be probably about 8-9%, just under 10 maybe in MacArthur. I think Di Lee would hold on in Fowler. Banks, I feel like Labor would still hold still gain Banks, but it'd be a lot closer. And then I think Hughes would pretty much be line ball, still safe in Cunningham. And then I think Whitlam got down to about 6, so with Jacinta probably expect about 5. Maybe about 4 or 5 in Edmund Nero. Gilmore might get a little bit dicey for Labor, but I can still see them holding it. Then obviously Fenner and Canberra still safe. Bean could get interesting because a lot of Jessie Price's preference votes were from the Liberal, but I imagine Liberal would not be doing well in a place like the ACT. Still think Labor would win, but probably still fairly marginal. Might get David Smith up by 1%. No, I haven't done the Teal seats yet. Teal seats, I do not imagine Jacinta Price would be very much in favour of trying to win back Teal seats, so most of these probably go on not in substantial margins to the Liberal, to the Teals. Sorry. Robertson, Labor's vote, I think it got to about 8%, two-party preferred. It'll probably go down a little bit, probably about 5-4. Because the Hunter, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Socially conservative, or fairly socially conservative, and that's a lot of that is a lot of Jacinta Price's personal views. So she'd probably do well there, probably about 5% in Dobell. 5-6 in Shortland. Newcastle obviously a safe seat. I feel like she would gain Patterson, but not by much. And then Hunter would probably get a little bit too close for comfort for Labor. And then obviously all this outback area, not outback, but all this regional area is very safe for the Liberals and the Nationals, and they aren't losing that in a hurry. Might go just under safe in Richmond. Andrew Gee would probably still hold on in Clare. And then I think the independent Michelle Milthorpe still gives Susan Labour a run for her money, but I don't know. And then we get to like this part of Victoria, so like Gippsland, no, this is Gippsland and Mallee, that I think would absolutely love to have Jacinta there. Indi, I think, could get a little bit marginal. Basically all the regional area are absolutely going to love Jacinta and absolutely eat her up, whereas the inner city's going to absolutely hate her. Wannon could get interesting. I still don't think Alex Dyson would win it, but could have been a little bit closer. Monash is fairly might get a little bit marginal, but 100% sure. In the modern day, if like she was the leader and there was an election like tomorrow, given her recent comments, I think Liberals would be absolutely wiped out of this part of Melbourne. They'd lose Latrobe, they'd lose Casey, and a whole bunch of the margins would go up in places like this, thanks to her comments on immigration. But we're assuming this takes place in May 2025, before any of these comments have surfaced. So I still think Labor probably holds Latrobe at about 4 or 5%, Casey on about 4 again. I feel like Flinders could almost get tilt. I feel like the kind of tier list demographic there are not going to like Jacinta at all. I don't know if Bruce would have necessarily gone safe, but still wouldn't have liked it. And then Menzies probably gone tilt. Michael Sakar I don't think was a very popular local member, so I can't see many scenarios in which Liberals would be winning there. Aston would probably be quite marginal, and then safe again in Isaacs and Hotham. Chisholm would be close, but I imagine they'd probably dislike Jacinta a little bit more than Peter Dutton. And then Dunkley, which I've forgotten, probably about 6 maybe, same margin as 2022, not counting the by-election. Goldstein, I feel like Zoe Daniel would hold on. Well, then again, they did vote for Peter Dutton, so who knows. And then Jagger, Cooper, probably all safe Labor seats, and then up into like Maribyrnong, Scullen. Corwell, there was an independent challenge there. So Carly Moore, I'm pretty sure that was her name. I still think Labor would have held on. Williams would have definitely held on for Labor, probably about 2-3%. Kind of similar, but not really at the same time. Kooyong was just an absolute mess, and I feel very much like that would stay fairly similar. And then seats like McNamara, safe for Labor. Labor would probably still gain Melbourne, because the Greens, I imagine, the Greens for this scenario are saying the exact same. And then similarly, Fraser gets down below safe because it's Labor versus Greens on the two-party preferred. Gordon might drop down to about 9-8%. Gillibrand would probably still say safe, and then Labor would probably be like hanging on just 10. Correa would be safe. Might get down to about 6% in Corangamite. And then Ballarat might dip down slightly below safe, probably go to about 9-8, but still very much a Labor seat. Bendigo would probably be lost, because we're still even with Peter Dutton. Nationals came fairly close, and I think with Jacinta, someone who really appeals to rural Australia, they would like that. And then McEwen, I think, would stay Labor, and Hawke would probably stay Labor too. Might go to about 5%, 4%. I don't know. Moving on, we'll move on to Queensland now. They'd probably like her a lot there. Maranoa, filling all the safe seats. Probably like a lot of Flynn, probably get up to about 8-9% for the coalition there. Similar to Capricornia, and Dawson already went plus 10, so yeah, and same with Herbert. I think Philip Thompson has a pretty good personal vote there. Bolcato wins in Kennedy, as always. I still think Labor probably wins up in Leichhardt, although a little bit smaller of a margin than before. Moving on to the somewhat Brisbane and Sunshine Coast area. Still very much safe for the coalition along this sort of area. Groom might drop down below 10% with Suze Holt Independent, but still very much safe. I think McPherson got fairly close, but I don't know if it really would with Jacinta. Seats like McPherson and Fadden would probably be about 10%, so either side is safe or fairly safe, I guess. Bonham might get marginal. I think it was on about 4 or 5% prior to the election, and probably stay about that. Excuse me. Ford, I think Liberals would retain Ford, but not by much. I feel like Labor could have some real problems in seats like Blair, but the Ipswich vote, I think, is still loyal to Labor pending some disaster for them. And then obviously these three seats, Rankin, Morton and Oxley, they're not leaving Labor. I still feel like Bonham might flip to Labor, and then seats like Brisbane and Griffith would. I can't imagine Trevor Evans in Brisbane coming anywhere close with someone like Jacinta Price as party leader. Greens would probably hang on to Ryan, and then Lilly would be safe. Peter Dutton, I don't know, because in the election campaign, I think that's really when, what really lost Dixon for the Liberals was seeing Peter Dutton and seeing how controversial the man he was. Whereas I imagine if Jacinta Price was leader, he would be a lot less controversial, probably be in some sort of ministry, but wouldn't be anywhere near as prominent as he was as opposition leader. So I think maybe Liberals just retain, but it'd be very close and it'd be watched for probably a few days. Petrie would be close, but again I think Liberals just hang on there. Longman probably be fairly marginal, and then seats like Fairfax and Fisher, you can't really see them going Labor anytime soon. Moving on to South Australia now, Barker is a very safe Liberal seat. I feel like the independent Anita Cuss, I think, in Grey would have been nowhere near as successful with Jacinta. Centre Alliance, obviously, probably all bets on to win in Mayo. Then I feel like Adelaide would be fairly unchanged, because I tend to look at Adelaide, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have not been to Adelaide in many years, but I feel like it's very, most of even the Liberal areas there are more sort of the small L, Malcolm Turnbull sort of areas, so I feel like they, in this scenario, still would have backed Labor. Maybe slightly under 10 in Boothby, and yeah, I'll say the Northern I haven't done Tasmania. Silly me. I don't want to jump the gun in Lions. Peter George ran as an independent in Franklin. I couldn't remember the name of the seat there. I feel like that would have been fairly unimpacted, but that probably would, and the result there probably would have been pretty similar regardless of who was leading the Liberal Party. So, I feel like that would still go under safe. Andrew Wilkie in winning Clark is about as safe as a bet you can make in any Australian election. Rebecca White obviously has a pretty big personal vote in Lyons, but I don't know if it really would have had the same effect if Jacinta was Liberal leader. Probably got to about 5% maybe, so still definitely holding that seat for a Labor, but making it a little bit too close for comfort. Braddon would have held on, I think, even with Anne Urquhart as the Labor candidate. And then Bass would have been close, but I feel like Labor could have just scraped in Liberals. I'll move on now to the Northern Territory. Lingiari, I imagine, would be the seat that Jacinta would run in, and she'd probably win it. I can't imagine it being a massive blowout, but I still think, being party leader, contesting that seat, and being her with her activism, some people probably wouldn't call it that. Hence why I sound sceptical. But her promotion almost of Indigenous communities in Lingiari would not go unnoticed. Darwin, although I don't know, Darwin would probably go about tilt or so. I can't imagine. I don't think Labor would have lost, but with a Territorian as leader and with the crime thing, probably would have weakened Labor's position in Solomon a little bit. Moving on, rural areas are going to love her, safe in Durrock and O'Connor. Similar to Franklin, I feel like Forrest would have been fairly close, but still definitely a coalition win. Andrew Hastie had a pretty big swing towards him. That'd probably keep up, say, fairly similar. And then Labor continue to dominate in actual Perth. They win Perth, they win Cowan, they win. I imagine the margin in a seat like Pearce would definitely be whittled down to about 4%, but still a Labor win. Hasluck might get to about 10, maybe 9. It was 10 on the redistribution, then it had a pretty big swing to it. I don't know how that swing would have gone with Jacinta as leader. I imagine Swan wouldn't have liked Jacinta very much, similar with Tangney, although I can imagine Tangney being a little bit more marginal. Burt and Brand, I imagine, would have put up, would have still stuck with Labor. Fremantle would have been interesting with, although then again, independent running, can't imagine much would change, probably still get very marginal, but Labor winning there. More would have been interesting. I don't know if I'll be able to make a prediction on that. Bullwinkle, I think Coalition would have won. They'd probably just scrape over the line there, probably not by a huge amount. Curtin, I imagine, would have stuck with Kate Cheney. And then Moore, final seat. I think it would still back the Liberals, but it would be very, very close, probably one of, if not the closest seat in the country. So anyway, that is my prediction for what I think the 2025 Australian election would have been if Senator Jacinta Nampijimpa Price was Liberal leader. Still got Labor winning an increased majority, but not as big as it was under Peter Dutton. I think a lot of that can be attributed to Brisbane. I think Jacinta would have done a little bit better there. But anyway, and Tasmania as well. But anyway, that is my video. If you have any comments, please let me know. Like and subscribe, do all that, and I'll see you soon.